What's up, everybody? We are live rounds, episode 12. Got some things to talk about, and we'll just kind of see where this conversation goes. Overall, it was a pretty exciting weekend last weekend. We had, I thought GCW had a really good show. We'll definitely talk about that. I saw some of the tournament stuff that you were talking about. I watched some of it. I couldn't do a full hour of Wheeler, Yuta, and Daniel Garcia, especially knowing that it was a draw. But I mean, I'm sure it was a great match. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about in the Indies. Thought Dynamite was crazy. And then, going into this week's Dynamite, and then we also have like New Japan Resurgence. And so there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So how's it going, Steven?
It's going good. Going good. We had a lot of good wrestling this weekend. Like you were mentioning, the SCI tournament, that was Friday night and Saturday night. The Scenic City Futures Showcase. Well, it's technically the Action Wrestling Future Showcase. That was Saturday afternoon. That was really good. Robert Martyr won that. Winner of the SCI, for anyone wondering, was AC Mack, who has been the Action Wrestling champion, the sub champion. He's made it to the finals of the SCI before. So there's a lot of really, really good stuff, a lot of good storytelling. That's been going on for years and years with the SCI. They build on it every year, which is really cool. IWTV 100, like you mentioned, Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta won a full hour. That match was awesome. I watched it live, so obviously I didn't know it was going to be a draw going into it. That probably turned some people off from watching an entire hour-long match. And then, there was GCW, there was VXS, there was AEW, there was UFC 265. So a ton of good stuff. And then, AEW obviously is still killing it. And, we can start really wherever you want to for today.
All right, so I guess we'll just get into Dynamite. How did you feel about Malakai Black's debut? How did you feel about the Cody Rhodes? Where do you think they're going with Cody Rhodes? Is this legit getting closer to the end? Is this just nothing but a storyline? Like, what are you thinking?
Well, I liked the presentation of it. It reminded me kind of like the Brody Lee match where like he just like smoked Cody and everyone was like, oh damn, okay, like he's for real then. Like that match like really established Brody in AEW. This is really established Malakai right off the bat. I don't love the idea of retirement, of like fake retirement storylines. Like I just in general, but I think it's going to be well done. Because Cody did get me towards the end of that promo. I was like, damn, it sounds like he's actually retiring right now.
Yeah.
But then Malakai just like got even more heat on himself, which they need to do because the fans want to cheer for Malakai and they're trying to clearly establish Malakai as the heel and Cody as the face in this story. So I think Cody probably goes away for a little while. Malakai gets some wins, and then similar to the Brody and Cody dog collar match, we'll probably get like another big match between Malakai and Cody down the line.
Well, we know that Cody's filming that show for season 2. And then he also has the reality show coming out eventually with him and Brandy and them. So, and it made me think too, though, like how good of shape AEW is in general, though, because it's like if Cody did go like for a long period of time, like they would be just fine. Like nothing against Cody at all, but just they can afford to lose guys and have other guys just step in, and they're built that way. So personally, I thought Malakai Black was awesome. I felt like just his style was just like violent. And you don't really see that sometimes in wrestling. Sometimes it looks like a dance or it's choreographed, but like he just looked like a vicious, violent guy. I really enjoyed his stuff. I'm really looking forward to what they do with him. And the great thing is too, is like, it really shows that he could be a star. Like there's sky's the limit for that guy right now. So, and I saw some criticism on Cody where it was like, yeah, you put him over, but then you made it about yourself afterwards. But it's like Cody also got hit by Malakai Black at the end as well. So it's like he still put him over after it was done. So I think that I don't really understand the Cody heat. I will say this, though. Like, I've gone back and watched some old AEW stuff and, like, when Cody was feuding with Dustin and then, like, when Cody was feuding with the Young Bucks with Dustin. And like, I don't know if Cody's changed, but it just doesn't come across as the same Cody. He seems a little bit more, I don't know, EVP almost more focused, right? He's focused on the Nightmare family. He's focused on the company. He's focused on, and it just doesn't seem like he doesn't have as much of a desire to be the guy anymore. And it kind of reflects that sometimes. So I don't know how you feel about Cody going right now.
Well, I mean, I think that's a big part of why he put himself in that position where like he can't get an AEW world title match, because I think he doesn't want to, like, I think his big goal is to set it up to where he doesn't have to be there, like you were saying.
Yeah.
He talked about it, for years earlier in his career. He would talk about how he wanted to wrestle until he was 35. He's 35 now, I think.
He's 34. Or no, 36. He's 36 because he's 2 years younger than I am. So he's 36.
Yeah, 2 years. Well, I'm 33 and he's 2 years older than I am. So regardless, it's.
I think he's 36, but I could be wrong. Go ahead.
But the point is, it sounds like more like he's going to go till he's around 40, because he's talked about that probably being around the time that he might go into politics in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think at some point Cody will challenge and will win the AEW world title. I think he has to do it at least once in this company, like just for his own. Not to put himself over, but just for like the sake of history. Like, he's meant so much to like this company happening that it would be great to see him win that world title, especially because he never got it in the WWE. So that's all I think it is. I think Cody's just done a good job of like kind of keeping the spotlight off of him, but he's still, even when he's beating guys, he's still elevating most of the guys he's wrestling, even if he beats them. And then he's losing to the ones that he should lose to. Like, he definitely should have lost to Malakai, and he did. He should have lost to Brody, and he did. He should have beat Anthony Ogogo, and he did. Like, so
plus, we haven't really seen Anthony Ogogo anymore. Like, I really worry about that guy's health. I think that Cody really gave him like, kind of like, if this doesn't work out for you in your future, at least you had this moment type thing. That's what I think it could be more of, because like, if you go back and watch like countdowns and stuff, like when they were just building up the company, they have a little segment with Anthony Ogogo, and I mean, his eye is almost like completely closed a little bit. And I feel like that one match with the Gunn brothers that hurt him right off the bat, his eye was busted going into that Cody match. I feel like that they might have realized it might not be able to have a long future with this. So, yeah, but I do agree with Cody winning and all that. But
yeah, for sure. And then there's other guys too. Like, he beat Darby early in AEW, but then Darby wound up beating him for the TNT title. Like, so like he got the rub there. I mean, there's been plenty of instances where Cody. So it's one of those things where, Frankie Mattis mentioned the Triple H thing. I think he's probably referencing like the throne breaker thing and all that. For one, that was probably the hardest I've marked out in my entire life as a fan, was watching Cody hit that throne with that sledgehammer. So like, I'm definitely glad he did that.
So yeah, it was great.
Incredible. And then
every fan wanted it too.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, it's so anybody that acts like that they were bothered by that moment, like, dude, that AEW fan base was there because they hated WWE. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and he also mentions, he says Cody doesn't hold a candle to Triple H as a wrestler, entertainer, and booker. It's fine. You can have your opinion in but you're talking about Triple H now or Triple H in the early 2000s? Because I think Triple H now is not as entertaining in the ring as Cody is. And as a booker, that's super subjective. Super subjective. If you're considering Cody Rhodes to be the booker, one of the bookers of AEW, I would definitely disagree with that. I think AEW has been way better than the booking that Triple H is doing for NXT. So I'm not sure what you're trying to compare between Cody and Triple H. But if you want to make that comparison in 2021, I'll take Cody Rhodes over Triple H all day. No question about it.
It's funny though, because Cody said that like Triple H is one of his idols in the business. Like, he's a big fan. So, I don't get the Cody hate. I really don't. And there's a lot of it. Like, there's a lot of people that hate that he has this big elaborate entrance. There's a lot of people that think that he doesn't deserve it and all this stuff. But it's like, I feel like a lot of it comes from people that didn't follow going into AEW and they just know Cody as the WWE guy, and they didn't see like the progression and how he became who he became in Ring of Honor and New Japan and all this stuff. And so it's like they're just like, oh, it's like Cody. Here we go. This guy's not worth it. Like I feel like it's that, but like Cody was a huge part in establishing this company. I could argue he was one of the main pieces. Like it was him, Kenny, and the Bucks, and like you can't really say any different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get all that. And by the way, y'all in the chat, like I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I'm just saying, like, I'm just looking at it from both sides of that kind of argument with Triple H and Cody, because like John mentions, let's be honest, TK's Tony Khan's the real booker, not Cody. Well, that's like saying Triple H isn't the real booker, Vince is. Like it's Vince's company. NXT is still owned by Vince. You know what I mean? Like it's. I don't even like the comparisons between the two to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's not surprising that he was a big Triple H fan. Cody said it 1,000 times. His favorite wrestler ever was Shawn Michaels. Not even his own dad. You know, Shawn Michaels was his favorite wrestler. And he's probably watched a lot of Triple H, and then he got to work side by side. And now he's in a very similar position. And that's why you're getting comparisons. But he is in a very similar position to Triple H in a lot of ways. But
I feel like when it comes to Cody, I feel like he didn't really necessarily do him a ton of favors going into AEW either, because he was this big name and then he took the title away from himself. He was the TNT champion. He took that away. Then he just basically was helping out the Nightmare family, getting lumped in with QT Marshall. All that stuff. Like, it's been a long time before we've seen him with like a guy that's around his merit. And that's what I was so excited for with Malakai Black. Then he loses to Malakai Black, and it's just like, when are we going to get like that type of Cody back? You know what I mean? And then it's like, are we going to get that type of Cody back? Or is he more focused now on putting over the future generations and other projects and things like that?
Yeah, I think that's going to be mainly, I think we're going to get mainly Cody putting over the next generation, like whether he's winning or losing, just making them all look better, set it up for the future. But I do think we'll get Cody versus Sting one-on-one at some point.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll definitely be cool.
And I think he'll wear the colored face paint. Like I think Cody will wear the colored face paint.
He's got the blonde hair.
Yeah,
he's got the blonde hair, so he'll be the Surfer Sting.
Yeah, I mean that was Cody. I said Shawn Michaels was Cody's favorite, as was Sting. That's like 1A and 1B for Cody. It's like his favorite guy. So
yeah.
So yeah, I think that you can still do some of those big matches. And also, if he's busy doing EVP stuff or doing stuff outside of wrestling or politics or whatever, as long as he just stays in decent shape, he can always pop in and out and just have a big match here and there with somebody. So they're in a good shape. AEW set up very, very, very well right now, and they're continuing to replenish as well. Like they have levels worth of stars right now, like from the main eventers that are established to the ones that are almost right there to the ones underneath that. There's kind of like a few levels beneath, but these people are still super valuable for their future if they're booked correctly. Like it's I like the position they're in a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Just give me 1 second.
You're good.
I was thinking to myself too, like how crazy would it be just like on a Dynamite to have like the Young Bucks versus Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, you know, like matches that you never thought you would see. And that's what I'm excited for. Like when Bryan and Punk get there, the shift that will happen of just like dream matches, and then hopefully, you know, more things open up, and then you're going to have the forbidden door used more. And I think sky's the limit. You know, I was listening to the Wrestling Observer, and they were talking, Brian Alvarez was talking about like active wrestlers on WWE side and AEW side. And it was like 24 males and 10 females for SmackDown. And it was like 34 males and I don't know, like 12 females or something for Raw. And AEW has 79 active wrestlers. And that's really one of the differences is like, first of all, at this point, if I'm the WWE, I don't need a brand extension. I'm letting all these people go. Like, I need to just focus on the 25, 26 people that I want to keep active all the time. Do it on both shows, right? So it's probably like 50 wrestlers, 60 wrestlers. and I'm just dividing them between 2 shows, but it's just one big roster. That's it. Like, I don't need all these guys. And I think that would help them tremendously. I think one of the worst things that they're doing right now is just repetitive matches, repetitive storylines. Like, it's just the same thing. And with AEW, it's like, you know, you get people from New Japan showing up, you get Nick Gage showing up, you get Juventud Guerrero showing up, you just get all sorts of different stuff that's just like a mixed bag that just constantly keeps your attention.
Yeah. Well, and I would also definitely need to bring up, you mentioned that a big part of why, you know, WWE is in the position it's in and it's stale and they're losing their, you know, their demographic of fans like us, and the numbers reflect that. You mentioned the like the matches, the rematch after rematch after rematch. That's definitely a big part of it for sure. But it also doesn't help when you have dolls winking mid-match at wrestlers and costing them matches, like magical dolls. And hopscotch with, oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? Last night, I saw this today. I actually watched it right before we went live just so I would know. Last night in a match between Piper Niven, who's now called Dewdrop.
Right, Dewdrop.
And she was wrestling Alexa Bliss. They put the doll was just like sitting on the top turnbuckle in one of the corners. And at a point in the match, the camera, like the camera we're seeing, but the crowd obviously isn't seeing this. The crowd's live just seeing the doll, like they're just seeing the doll and they're seeing the match live. But what we see as viewers is the camera at one point just zooms right in on the doll's face, and the doll goes, and like this sound, like this like magic sound played. So all the live audience would have seen, they probably showed it on the screen, I'm guessing, like for the live crowd, but it was just this like noise and the doll winking. And then Piper Niven's like selling it like, oh no, I'm so scared. And then she gets rolled up by Alexa Bliss and loses. So like that, like exactly. Now I have to say it though. I've been saying it week after week after week after week after week for everyone listening. I'm not even roasting WWE by saying this. I promise. I'm just telling the truth. If I was like 6 years old, this might be okay. So like I see this is 1,000,000,000% of this point. This is straight up for kids. Like if you're an adult and you're watching the show, stop complaining about it, because you are watching. You might as well be watching Dora the Explorer. Like you know what? You'll learn more from Dora the Explorer. You might learn a second language a little bit. But like Raw, if you are above the age of 10 years old and you're watching Raw, and you're like tweeting angrily, like breathing really heavy into your keyboard, and tweeting away and just complaining and doing.
We want Wyatt. We want Wyatt.
And that's the thing. I'm not even complaining. Like I need to make that very clear. I'm not complaining. I just have accepted it for what it is. But people need to get this. Like you're watching a magic doll winking at people now. Like you're watching hopscotch and slime. Like you're watching. This is a complete kid show. See, thank you, Kent. Says my 7-year-old loves Raw, and that's because it's written for your 7-year-old. You know what I mean? Like that. Ding, 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 ding. So once again, I don't have any issue with any of this as like somebody who understands what this is. But if you're my age and you're watching Raw, and you're like, I can't wait for it to get better.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not. Like this is what it is now. The game has completely changed for what this company is.
And not only that, like we really need to deep dive into NXT, but like the thing is like I felt like NXT pushed the WWE into a direction they did not want to go. And now that Vince has basically given himself the green light to destroy NXT, I think this company is about to really like go backwards. And it couldn't happen at a worse time, going up against AEW with so much momentum. And it's either they really don't understand what is like becoming this like unbearable monster that is ready to hit them in the mouth, or like they just don't care and they're just focused on whatever they want to do and they're like living in their own bubble. You know what I mean?
They're living in their own bubble 100%. Like they are not in the wrestling business at all. They are in the entertainment. They are in the trying to become synonymous with all children's programming bubble. Like they want to be on Nickelodeon. They want to be involved with this kind of like
I mean, I think they do, but I also think they want the adult audience as well, because they do bring in people like Bad Bunny, and they did want to have Cardi B. Like, they want pop culture. They brought in Jake
But aren't
Paul.
they for kids too? Those are all for kids.
Yeah. I mean, WAP and all that stuff.
Well,
is
I
not
mean,
really
sure,
for
there's
kids.
okay, fair enough. But I mean,
And
like when
Bad
I was a
Bunny
kid, I was
is-
listening to explicit CDs.
But see,
you
it's
know what
like
I mean?
they want pop culture also, and they want adult pop culture. That's what they're using to try to keep like an adult audience. So they're having like a mixed bag of how they're booking this stuff, and I just think it's really bad. Overall, I just think it's really bad. But like, I'm not sure what direction they want to go in. But so, I listened to Bully Ray, and he really summed it up with basically saying like, does the New York Yankees want their minor league team to be better than them? Because that is kind of what was happening with NXT and WWE. And Vince would have to hear about it constantly. And like, he gave it a chance. He let it be its own brand, and they lost to AEW. And when they lost to AEW, Vince did what he did with ECW. He got tired of hearing those three letters chanted at his events. He knew that he owned the company, and he decided to destroy it. He decided to kill it, because he didn't just like end it. He made it so uncool and so terrible that like you felt stupid chanting ECW in the future when it was over. Like, I feel like that is where NXT is heading. And so that is why I put rest in peace NXT, because the NXT that we knew that a lot of people loved is absolutely dead. And if it's not dead yet, it will be shortly after this takeover and their new direction that they're going.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on the last round of cuts, because we haven't done a show since those cuts the other week that Sean reported. But the only thing that I mean, you just look at it and it's like, yeah, it's very like 205 Live. That's basically done. Like, I mean, that show's 100%. For sure going to get canceled, right? I mean, like, they just got rid of Alex Zane and Anthony Henry, who were like the only two guys that were really worth watching on that show at that point, after they got rid of Daivari and Easter in the last round, and Stallion and August Gray and stuff. Like, they've gutted that thing dry. Like, if you turn on 205 Live, it's Ika Manjiro versus Grayson Waller, who, no disrespect to those guys, but like, that's not the same as watching Ari Sterling / Alex Zane on the show. It just isn't. Right. NXT UK, the only thing saving them at the moment, I feel like, is the fact that those wrestlers are getting paid a lot less in general than the people in the US working for like the main company. Like, their contracts are way lower. That said, it's still probably a money pit. They're probably still losing a lot of money, and Nick Khan and whoever else is involved is probably noticing that, and who knows how much longer that's going to last. And I'd say the same thing about NXT itself. Like, why have NXT at all if you are going to try to develop all your own talent again? Just have the PC, and you can maybe have an Evolve type show with NXT or whatever. But like, yeah. But it seems like the focus of what you need to be doing is trying to develop your own stars, if that's what you're trying to do. Right. Because the formula that was working for NXT so well initially when it was all started, right? It was like it was mainly PC trainees or people that they had molded with a little bit of indie sprinkled in, with like El Generico sprinkled in, and you know what I mean? Neville sprinkled in. Yeah. But then when it became more and more about just a super indie and just in talent hoarding and getting all the top indie names, then it just became a super indie, which is great. But once again, the problem I've talked about this before, AEW does a better job at what NXT is trying to do. So now you're just not getting that talent anymore. And the talent that they want doesn't want to come there anymore. Like, there's people turning down contracts left and right by the WWE over the last few months. Like, so they're in a position where like the top indie talent's not going to want to go there. So they have to try to create their own stars from scratch or from other sports or whatever. So NXT is going to be drastically different if they wind up doing that. Like, quote unquote takeover shows is going to be two guys putting each other in headlocks and running the ropes and doing drop downs and missile drop or drop kicks from their feet or whatever, because it's just going to be very basic, very just trying to train people and teach people. But once again, it's because they're not. If you're a top indie star right now, Like, why would you sign with the WWE?
I totally agree.
Like,
I totally agree.
Just
Like,
wouldn't make any sense.
Like,
people can say money, but AEW can pay you the same type of money. Like, there are options now outside of money.
Yeah, I mean, they were saying that Adam Cole made like $100,000 a year. Like, that's what a report. I'm not saying that's fact or not, but he's like one of their bigger names too. And like Mojo said, he was only getting paid like $39,000 a year. So it's not like these guys are getting paid like these astronomical, huge salaries to go to the WWE and just like get destroyed. And now, like I said too, like they're not letting them keep their names. They're not letting them build their brands. They're owning everything that they're being a part of. And I just think it's a terrible idea if you're an indie guy. Now, I will say if you fit their mold, you know, maybe not the worst idea. Like your guy Joshua Bishop, like I still think he could go there and be something for them. You know, he has the size, he has the look, like it would work.
And he's still like 23 or something.
Right. I think he would be right up their alley. But I feel like guys like an LA Knight, things like that, like that's more what they're looking for. They're not looking for these indie guys anymore. Like, I hate to say it, like Blake Christian, he's gone. Like, as soon as they figure out like a way to move on from that, even though he's new, they're not going to keep people like him.
Well, they don't care. Like Stallion was there for like less than a year. Anthony Henry and Alex Zane were like 6 months. I mean, Blake Christian got signed when those guys got signed.
And the crazy thing about Alex Zane is he has the size and he's not that old. Like, he's only like maybe 34, 32, 34, something like that. Like,
but he's like 6'2", yeah.
Yeah, but he's 6'2", and he can move like a cruiserweight. Like, you didn't have to put him in 205 Live. You could have moved him up, but you chose not to because, like, and so that's my thing is, like, I just feel like that there's more like almost like a resentment that, like, they're just upset in the situation. Like, this is all I have. This is all that you've given me. Well, we're just going to cut all this. And, like, Bronson Reed, like everyone's shocked about that one. I've never been his biggest fan, even when he was Jonah Rock in the Indies. But I did see that, like, you know, he was gaining momentum. People were enjoying him. They were talking about moving him to the main roster, and then they just outright cut him. Like, I don't know, but I do think that it's better for the wrestling business as a whole because I think that hoarding talent is a bad thing no matter what. Like, at the end of the day, if you're not going to use talent and you're just signing them to keep them away from someone, it just hurts everybody in the long run. At first, it's great and all. Like, they got signed, they're getting paid, it's lovely. But, like, at the end of the day, if you're going to sign somebody, they need to be used. And they were hoarding an unbelievable amount of talent. Like, between these past 2 years, they've released like 119 people. Like, that's a whole entire company. You know what I mean? And a lot of those people they weren't using. And a lot of those people were wanting their releases because they weren't being used. So to me, it's just I don't understand this culture now of like being furious at firing wrestlers. Like, this happens all the time. And a lot of these guys have been living there rent-free. They haven't really been contributing at all, and they've been able to stay with the company and do nothing. So for the company to finally say, like, look, the rent's due and we're not interested anymore, that's their prerogative. They can do that. And at the end of the day, they're probably going to be better off because they're going to be able to be used again. They're going to be able to get their name out there. All wrestling is going to be better shows, better companies, like bigger rosters. Like, in the end, it's going to work out for everyone.
Yeah, I think what people are more so upset with than like people getting released is that the WWE caused a lot of these wrestlers to burn bridges with other companies by signing with them. Yeah. Like, that's a big part of the issue, I think, that you're missing is that, like, a lot of these people that are getting let go, like, had offers elsewhere and then were like, oh, the WWE just gave me everything I want. And, like, I've always wanted to work for the WWE, so I'm going to go do that instead. And they sign, like, 3-year deals and get fired in 6 months.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, those ones I get. But there are some that have been there for 10, 12, 10, 15 years. And, like, when they've just decided to finally let them go and they haven't done considerably anything there.
Yeah, I understand that for sure.
I get that. But, like, I thought the Anthony Henry one was terrible. I mean, he moved his family in January. Like, he put it all on the line. The guy was talking about possibly retiring, and he decides to move his family and take a risk, and he's already cut. I thought they didn't give Alex Zane a chance at all. Like, there's a lot of guys that, but to me also it shows that they had these plans, and for whatever reason, plans didn't work out. They decided to just move on.
It was that Evolve show that never took off.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why they got a lot of these guys, was for that. And then they put them on 205 Live in the meantime.
I thought the long game would be Evolve would be like your really developmental guys, right? Like your Vince McMahon types that you want to actually develop into stars from the scratch. And I thought NXT would be your like elite upper tier indie workers, and that would be your like third brand. Like, I thought that's how they were going to do things. And you know, and like, honestly, I think COVID has been a big part of it too. Like, I think that they had a lot of plans and they all got altered because of COVID. And now that they're back on touring and stuff, they're like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. Like, they've just decided not to. So I think that that's been an issue as well.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone, real quick, make sure to hit the thumbs up button on the video. We have like 40-something people watching. We got like 22 thumbs ups, I think, from the last time I saw. So if you can just hit that button, we'd really appreciate that. And I saw Dirty with the super chat. Always killing it in here. Thank you.
Yeah, Dirty, man. I really appreciate it. Opinion on Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So I haven't like watched archives and archives of the stuff, but, you know, I think it worked really well for its time. And I think that, you know, it took wrestling seriously, and it was booked pretty, like, it was booked smart, but it wasn't like over the top, overly creative. It just was like a really good, like, Southern wrestling show. But I think that Jim Cornette showed you, if you take that same philosophy and you put it in like Ring of Honor in modern day, it doesn't work. And I think that is more so, my beef with Cornette now is it's like he still wants to make everything Smoky Mountain, and he doesn't want to evolve at all. And so for its time, I thought it was really well done, but I don't think that it's necessarily has a huge fan base in 2021.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool thing that he accomplished, like, back then, like, to have guys like Jericho and Lance Storm, and like, I think Kane at one point was there and stuff. And, but they had a lot of really good talent there. And I think Jim Cornette is a great mind for wrestling. I know that there's a lot of people that dislike him for a lot of the stuff he says. I totally get that. But like, I think that I just wish he would just like soften his stance a little bit and just realize, like, that what you were saying, that style and everything, that presentation just doesn't really work the way it used to, but the talent is absolutely out there still. And like, Cornette could be contributing so much to developing the characters. Like, you could take somebody with like no personality that's like one of the best athletes we've ever seen, and Cornette could like mold that dude or that woman or whoever into something special because of all of his experience, if he would just like get out of his own way. But did you hear him what he said about Tony Khan the other day when
No.
This was really good. He actually when Bobby Eaton passed away,
Yeah.
Cornette did a podcast, and he was like he did a couple podcasts, and he was really, you know,
Upset.
torn up about it. Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, like, I don't know who can get a hold of Tony Khan. Like, obviously me and him have no way of getting in touch at this point, but like, he was like, if anyone's listening with AEW, like what Tony Khan said about Bobby, all those nice things and how respectful he was, he was like, thank you. He was like, tell Tony Khan thank you for me. And he was like super sincere about it. And he was like, he even said, me and Tony Khan we might be on two totally opposite sides of what we like about pro wrestling. He said, but Tony Khan isn't a terrible person. We just have different philosophies on wrestling. And he thanked him like multiple times for how he put over Bobby Eaton and everything since he passed away. So it was nice to hear Cornette being genuine too, because that's another thing people I don't think fully understand. He's a gimmick. Like his show that he's doing, he's saying outrageous stuff like a shock jock because it keeps his name always out there.
Yeah.
But even he doesn't want anything actually bad to happen to Tony Khan. You know what I mean? But when AEW started, I think he himself has said that like he was one of the first people AEW reached out to help book the show and like be a part of the company, but he didn't want to do all the traveling. And he also then the product wound up being totally different than what he would have done with the product.
Yeah.
But I think there's a soft spot there. Even though he talks all this trash about the company, I think there is a part of him that wants to see that company succeed. So that all said, it was nice to hear Cornette being genuine and being really, really nice. I mean, he literally said, he's like, that was a really cool thing you did, Tony. Like, that was cool. You know what I mean? Like, so it was nice to hear.
At the end of the day, Tony's a huge fan. Like, and so it's like, it's not just like he was a fan because he started watching the Attitude Era or WC. Like he was watching, he goes back. Like he was a tape trader, and he go back and watch like NWA and Smoky Mountain and Stampede Wrestling and all of it. So like he knows his stuff. So yeah, it's always good to have somebody that's involved like that. But yeah, like, I mean, imagine if Cornette was the manager of the Pinnacle and not Tully Blanchard or something like that. Like a Cornette could bring a lot. But I mean, at the end of the day, his bread and butter right now is trashing AEW and modern wrestling. And it is what it is. Like, take it with a grain of salt.
Well, it's basically like for anybody who maybe doesn't follow what Cornette says and stuff, but watches AEW, just pay attention every time Dan Lambert gets a microphone in AEW. Yep. He's basically doing the Cornette promos as Dan Lambert, but like he's basically saying the things that Jim Cornette is saying on his podcast.
Yeah, for sure. And he's going to say something tomorrow. So
yeah,
we'll see what he has to say, and
I want to see that's what I want. That's what I want to know. And also, like Dirty said, he sent a super chat for us to answer that question. If y'all send those super chats, we'll make sure to put it on the screen for you, answer your questions, read out your statements. I put up all the audio for this the following day on my Fight Talk podcast feed, so people will still hear your questions and hear everything you have to say. In future days if they're not here live.
Plus, it helps support the channel, which I really appreciate, and it allows us to do more of these and get equipment that we need and all sorts of stuff like that. So any super chats you guys can send, I definitely appreciate. And another thing I was thinking, too, about NXT is, like, where would the women's division be, like, without NXT? Because I really feel like NXT pushed the women so much forward for WWE and all of it. And like if NXT never happened, or if it was like Vince's vision, like I don't think we would be where we are with women's wrestling if it wasn't for NXT. So
that's a really, really good point. Like that because a lot of those 4 horsewomen matches on NXT, yes, like that's what created enough buzz for the WWE to be like, okay, like we got like Sasha and Bayley are like having match of the night and main eventing these shows, and like the internet's blowing up about it. Like we need to be putting this on Raw and SmackDown. So yeah, that's a really good point.
And it makes me somewhat concerned. Like, does Vince have the balls? Would he be willing to take women wrestling backwards and start to have more divas, models, all that stuff again? Like, are we just really going to turn back the clock on this whole thing? And he's just basically gonna like act like this whole thing was a failure.
I don't know what they're gonna do on that end. I'm assuming if they wind up doing what we're kind of assuming they do, and they kind of go back to the starting from scratch with brand new people and stuff. I guess. See, the good thing with the WWE currently with their women is like they have enough right now to last them like a long time, like actual like women stars that. Unless they leave for other companies, like I hope Charlotte comes to AEW at some point. I think that'd be incredible. But
it sounds like Andrade's really pushing for that too. So
yeah, and her dad's about to be pushing for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But but then I think after that they'll probably go more into a mode of like hiring top women's talent that's elsewhere, and then just putting them straight onto Raw or SmackDown. Like getting like a Thunder Rosa or somebody like that. And I'm not saying her specifically, but somebody like that's already ready somewhere else and just putting her right on Raw or SmackDown and not putting them in NXT first is what I'm going to guess. But that's one thing about WWE I'll always give them credit for. Like the storylines suck ass usually, but the women's roster they've assembled for across all their brands they like, because even the ones we don't talk about often, like the ones that are even on the main roster, because you got obviously Charlotte, Sasha, Bailey, Becky, who's the Bianca Belair. You got a lot, and then you have like Io Shirai and like they're
Oscar, Nikki Cross,
Rhea Ripley.
Yeah,
she's booked. I mean, they're the talent's there. You can create a division off of that for a long time. But yeah. What's the super chat? Because this has to do with women's wrestling. I see Chelsea Green there.
Random, but Chelsea Green. I notice a lot of people bag on her for things. Does she play victim a lot, or did she when she was released? So here's the thing. Like, I like Matt Cardona a lot, right? And I support Matt Cardona. And Chelsea is his fiance. They plan on getting married and all that stuff. But I'm not a big Chelsea Green fan. And she's, regardless, whatever you want to say about Chelsea Green, at the end of the day, she gets her name brought into stuff a lot. Whether it's her fault or not, drama finds her. Like, she did that thing. She did that shady thing to that artist that she got caught on.
That was pretty screwed up. Yeah.
Right. She stuck her nose in the Tessa thing. She wanted to speak out against Tessa when all those girls were attacking her when she really didn't need to. She just decided to, I want to be involved type thing. She's now broken her wrist. I don't know how many times, and she keeps getting booked and like falls back on that. Like, I don't know. There's just so many things that end up with her. And then not only that, like when you watch her and Matt together, you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, but like they say it works and they're happy, but like they're total opposites, but opposites do attract. So it is what it is. I almost somewhat question her motives. Like, I don't know if she's really in this for like, without some of it being clout with her name involved. I don't know. When I first saw her was going into All Out, and she was like the Madness or whatever, and I thought she was pretty entertaining. I thought she was pretty good, but like as the more I've seen her of her personality, I'm not the biggest fan. I know they had a local show here in Texas that she agreed to be booked in against Rachel Rose. She was the main event, and she basically pulled out and said that I have further commitments that are actually on TV, so I'm not going to do your show. And they had to cancel the entire show. So stuff like that, she just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, I do understand where you're coming from with that. I have the same kind of vibes with a lot of it, to be honest. I really didn't like the thing with with that artist, like her just blocking this dude, and all he was asking for was credit. Like not even like, hey, put my name all over everything. It was just like, hey, you're using all of my artwork. Can you at least just like one tweet so people like know where to buy it? Because like, you know what I mean? Like, it's my art.
Yeah.
So, which is like a totally normal thing. Like when I edit videos for like large YouTube channels, like I expect my name to either be on the screen or at the very least be in the description of the video. Like, because I work freelance just like an artist would, and like that's how you get more business, unless they're willing to hire you full time, which is just really rare in a freelance type role. So like, and then I know what you're talking about with like when you see them together and like the vlogs and stuff. Like, yeah. It seems like she doesn't even like him. Like,
yes.
She's always annoyed by everything he does. But I also think that probably partly is like when the camera's rolling, because she probably thinks she's too cool to like be in the action figure scene, or like
that bothers me because that's him.
No, I know. Like I feel the same exact way about it. Like I totally know what you're saying, but well, once again, like who am I to say who you should and shouldn't be with? You know, he might be incredibly happy.
She made a comment one time too, where she's like, "I'm not really a bell-to-bell wrestler, but like I can definitely wear tight shorts and push my boobs out and still have a good match with the fun storyline." And I'm just like, I hate wrestlers like you. You know what I mean? So like, there's everything she says, and it's like, it won't, not a month will go by where Chelsea Green did something that pissed somebody off or rubbed somebody the wrong way, or people have tried to cancel her or whatever. So it's like, I don't hate her. I'm just a little bit leery about her, I guess you would say. So I'm just kind of like, whatever. But like, I'm going to support Matt. I hope it all works out. I mean, trust me, I would think there's definitely things that he does that would get on her nerves. He is kind of OCD. I can't imagine coming to the house and seeing 27 Amazon packages at the door and all that stuff. But, so I do get it. So it's not all that. But does it feel like he's kind of carrying her career right now? Kind of right now.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, and I think that it's like on one of their more recent videos I watched, and it was them at like Disney or something after the GCW show. Yep. And she's like complaining about him like getting like multiple meals.
Yep.
And it's like I hate to be this blunt about it, but it's like, is it because you're not getting booked? Like why are you so concerned about the money he's spending? Like you're also in the same business he is.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and then he's like, I don't want to be room with her. I don't want to travel with her. I do my own thing. I want to like I don't want room service in the room. She does. Like, I have my own schedule, my own routine. And she's like, babe, you don't want to be with me? And it's like, oh, it's so cringy. And like, I go and listen to the Renee interview on Oral Sessions with both of them.
I couldn't do it.
I listened the whole hour. And it was like, do you remember that time where we had like that drag out fight? And we're in like, Matt's like, no, I don't really remember. And she's like, the big fight. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. There's just stuff like that where I'm like, ugh. So we'll see. I
think she's decent in the ring. I'll say that. Like, I don't think she's like the worst women's wrestler I've ever seen, but she also doesn't like blow my socks off either. Like, I can take her leave Chelsea Green. Like, as far as like,
but that's what watching her as a wrestler. Like when you hear about her attitude, like that sounds like to me someone that isn't really trying to get better either. Like, I'm just who I am. I'm going to show off my body and I'm going to do my couple moves and then I'm done. Like, no, that's not women's wrestling in 2021 anymore. You know what I mean? So, which honestly, it made a lot of sense why she was in WWE. And I think if she didn't break her wrist multiple times, I think they would have kept her, honestly. I think they were just like, we've got this storyline for you. We're ready for you to go. And then like she would get injured. And then it's like, okay, we'll wait for you to come back. We got this storyline for you. We're ready to go. She got injured again. So it was just like, you know what? Screw this. Let's just move on. So
that's how it felt. Yeah, for sure. We got a few more super chats. Nice.
Yes, Dirty. Again, I appreciate it, my man. Is there anything about Vince Russo that you respect? Oof. So I guess, I mean, he's a big part of the Attitude Era, right? Like he did move it forward. He did challenge Vince. He did make Vince think of things that he let Vince know that the WWE was no longer cool and they needed to do something else. And Vince actually listened to him. So I will give him credit for that. I think him with just like, I think what made Vince Russo and Vince McMahon work well is because Vince McMahon would be able to be like, that's stupid, or we're not doing that, or let's do this instead. And at this point too, Vince McMahon's a very motivated person at this point, right? When you gave Vince Russo like the book and just nobody's there to question him, nobody's there to like say, let's scale that back, let's do that, and he just gets to do whatever he wants to do, that's when it goes completely off the rails. That is like the issue mostly with Vince, is like for that small period of time when he was working with Vince McMahon and The Rock and Stone Cold and like that Attitude Era, he was able to come up with some really good stuff. But like when you see him that was just on his own, he came up with some of the worst stuff you've ever imagined. And he did the same thing in TNA. So it's hard to like really respect him overall, but he did contribute to some of the greatest angles in wrestling. So you got to give him respect for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, he needed, as someone in the chat said it as well, Jim, he needed a filter. That's exactly it. Like that's how he was successful in the WWE, in my opinion, was he was giving Vince McMahon like a giant list of crazy ideas. And Vince it was probably taking one out of every 50. You know what I mean? Like, and he's like, oh, this is Vince Russo's idea, but like we're gonna tweak it this way and that way, and like we're gonna make it work. But then when he didn't have that filter, you're getting Judy Bagwell on a forklift matches and stuff like that. So it's like that's you're getting the that cluster frick of those matches where it's like briefcases in every corner and like one of them has a title belt, but the other three might get fired or something.
Yeah, feast or fired.
Yeah, like all that kind of trash. Like
you're getting AJ Styles and Kazarian in like a reindeer suit and a Santa suit ladder match, like because it's the holidays.
Eric Young dressing as a turkey every Thanksgiving.
Right, like you're getting the Sting and Abyss stuff. Like the matches were great, but man, to get there. There was some rough stuff, you know what I mean? Judas Macias and all this other stuff. Like, it just got really hokey, and every pay-per-view was like a gimmick match, every single one, and just and like don't even want to talk about WCW. Like with him booking himself as like a main eventer and giving Arquette the title, and just oh my god, just awful stuff.
It's wild that Judas Macias is like still doing it. Like as a
Mortis or whatever.
King Muertes.
Okay.
Is the whatever they call that title belt, like the Pacific champion or Caribbean champion at a MLW now.
He's on the next Loco show. I'll get to see him wrestle.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's still solid. Like for what he is, he can still go.
Yeah. That show's wild, dude. Like, I'm going to see Ninja Mac versus Low Key, but then there's like Savio Vega and him and like just this. It's all over the place. So I'm looking forward to it. It should Masada versus Gino in like
the death match wrestler Masada?
Yeah.
Against Gino Medina?
Yeah. And it's going to be like a death match.
I don't know if I've ever seen Gino do a match like that.
Yeah, he did one. He did one of those like without the ring, and he did smash like a light tube over lowrider and stuff like that. But he hasn't like gone all in, so we'll see how that goes.
And that reminds me, I just don't want to forget to bring him up during the show. That ASF kid is unreal.
Yeah, he's awesome, right?
Dude, I've only seen him maybe like 3 to 5 times tops. I saw him definitely on that GCW Loco show. Then I saw him again this weekend at the GCW show. That kid, I think he's more, and I love Ninja Mac. Like, trust me, I'm a big Ninja Mac guy, but I think ASF's better and has more potential than he does. Like, that ASF kid, like, he moves like Rey Mysterio in 96. Like, he's bouncing around the ropes, doing stuff I've never seen before. Like, I'm super impressed with that kid.
Like, dude, like ASF, Dante, and Ninja Mac, like all are like 40 minutes down the road that I get to watch wrestle. It's great. I love it.
You're welcome for forcing me into this world.
This is a great world to be in. ASF is he's in the tournament, the Texas tournament. He's facing Trey Blair or whatever.
Trey Lamar?
Yeah, Trey Lamar. He's facing Trey Lamar.
Trey Lamar is solid.
Yeah. So the first round is ASF and Trey Lamar.
That'd be really good. Trey just did AEW Dark, I think, recently. I know he did the Impact, like the Cruiser or the X Division Cup thing they did a few months back. But I've been watching him on the Indies for a minute. He was a guy when like Blake Christian and Alex Zane and Ben Carter and all those guys got signed. I was like, Trey Lamar is going to be like one of those next guys up to fill those spots.
Yeah.
So dude, that'll be sick. ASF, is it Antonio, San Francisco? It's something San Francisco.
Yes, Antonio, San Francisco. I like his music too. It's like a little happy, like
that kid's sick. If y'all shout out to ASF. If y'all haven't seen this kid wrestle, like you know who he really reminds me of, and I do not. I've already said Mysterio. He reminds me of Amazing Red. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the stuff he's doing, like, because I just haven't. It's really rare in 2021 to do moves I haven't seen before. Yeah. And like he's doing that stuff. Like it's awesome.
So like I'd heard about him in Corpus Christi a lot, but I hadn't seen him. And so when I went and saw GCW, that was the first time I saw him. And then he was just on the card with Izzy James in that Davey show. And it was a dog collar match. And he faced Izzy James in a dog collar match. Go back and watch that show. It's pretty good. It's on the IWTV.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, he's being booked quite a bit now. And then Chris Carter is facing Dante Leon for the Loco title, the next Loco show.
Nice, that'll be great.
Yeah, so between like Chris Carter, Ninja Mac, ASF, Dante Leon, like there's a lot of good local. Then you've got Brian Keith, Mysterious Q, Roxy, Rachel Rose. Like they've got a pretty solid lineup. And then Kurt Stallion is going to be on the next show, the Olajuwon show.
Stallion Rogers, you mean?
Yes. And Cole Radrick's going to defend his title. So there's a lot of good stuff going on.
He's like the Lone Star champion or whatever for there.
Yeah.
Love Cole Radrick. Yeah, if y'all want to check out independentwrestling.tv, that's where a lot of this stuff airs. Use code FIGHTTALK, FIGHTTALK. Use it one word, no spaces, and that helps me out when y'all use that. So please do that. Independentwrestling.tv or IWTV.live.
And Cabana Man Dan was the first time I saw him wrestle this weekend. I watched him on TV for that tournament. I watched him, and I watched Daniel Garcia versus that guy that looked like he was from
Graham Bell. Dude, that match ruled. I love those guys.
Yeah, that was good.
Graham Bell comes out with the bazooka and shoots it off.
I was like, this is Mad Max looking dude. What is this? But no, it was pretty good.
He's like traveled to like Japan and Mexico and like so he's like he's really like pulling all these different styles because I'm sure you notice like he throws really strong kicks. And he does the Tenru style elbow where he like back to the ring, falls back on people and stuff. Like I love that kind of stuff. One of my favorite matches last year was Graham Bell versus Manders, and it happened at Action Wrestling out of Tyrone, Georgia. It's on IWTV. Highly recommend checking that match out, everybody. I mean, like, Graham Bell and Daniel Garcia was probably my favorite match of the entire weekend, actually.
Yeah. I mean, so if you guys watched AEW, what did you guys think of Daniel Garcia? I thought he looked awesome. And what I loved too, what AEW did nice was they showed you enough of him that if you sign him in Darby, it's like, oh, I want to see that. Even if I'm not even a big Daniel Garcia fan, just from what I saw, it's like you could see the potential. And so to get Darby and Daniel Garcia on next week's Dynamite or tomorrow, that's dope. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's Dynamite. Okay, so let's talk about this too. Christian, do you think it's all out, or do you think it's going to be like a Rampage or a future Dynamite or something like that?
It should have been like this Friday's Rampage, in my opinion.
If not, I do like the idea of Friday Chicago sold out. Like you get Kenny Omega and Christian, and you get CM Punk's debut. Like I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if something happens where like Kenny retains at the end of the show, like that's when a big surprise drops. Or I mean, I know it's clearly building to like Darby and CM Punk, so it would make the most sense if like Darby was in the ring and he's like, I'm right here. Y'all know who I'm calling out. Like, let's see if he's got the balls to show up. Yeah. And Punk just comes out and it's like, oh damn, like he's actually here. But even, I will say this, because I doubt they do it all on one show, but right. I'd prefer if they did Kenny Omega and Christian. I don't really necessarily care where it happens. It even could happen at All Out. And the reason that like it wouldn't be that, I don't love that as like the title match for a pay-per-view, but there's so much other stuff going on the show that if you did Christian and Kenny, and like right after the match, Bryan Danielson came out to Final Countdown. Like that's worth the whole moment. Like doing that match, and then like this is the big moment. Is Daniel Bryan is going face to face with Kenny after the match? Yeah. Like because that's what I would do. I would have. We've talked about it before, but I'd have Kenny and Daniel Bryan like right off the bat. Yeah. But yeah, if they don't do that, they need to do it soon.
Sorry, so the only thing that makes me think too is like, if you don't do that, then why did you pull Adam Page away from the title shot? Like that seemed like that was the plan. And then it's like you signed CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, and then you're like, okay, we're not going to do that just yet now. So like I feel like CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are gonna play a role in the title match. I could be wrong, but I feel like something is gonna happen there. So we'll see. But I I really don't want Christian at All Out. But honestly, if it happens, and like you said, because I just don't see All Out ending, and Daniel Bryan hasn't debuted it at that point. Like I don't think they're going to wait till Arthur Ashe. I think Daniel Bryan might make his in-ring debut at Arthur Ashe, but I don't think they're going to wait for the debut.
Unless, like I've said before, even though like you see, here's the thing. A lot of the time when I'm thinking about AEW, I don't even want to like overthink it because they seem to just do what makes sense. Like regardless for like, so in my mind, I'm like, there's no way that, but I've said it before. With the way AEW works and the way that they're able to build all these surprises and the roster they already have and the momentum the company has, they could hypothetically go into all out with Kenny Omega just in the ring with no challenger, and like we just get Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? They could just do that match right, like just do it on the show if they wanted to and just watch the internet explode.
Right.
Like, you know, and then everyone's going to tune in on Wednesday on Dynamite to hear what Daniel Bryan has to say. Like,
100%.
So, but I'm just not putting anything past AEW at this point. Like, they can do really whatever they want. Like, nothing's really out of the realm of possibility. But I think probably the most realistic scenario is probably Christian Cage and Kenny Omega at All Out for the title. But then you have to have a big moment of something big has to happen after the match. Or, I mean, if it's at All Out, depending on when the match happens on the show, you'd imagine it'd be the last match, but maybe they're in like towards the middle of the card and you have Darby and Punk be kind of like the last thing that happens on the show.
Here's
like,
another thing too that you have to think of. If you do Christian and Omega, you saw the reaction from the AEW fan base when it was Jungle Boy and Christian. Kenny Omega is the heel, but I just can't imagine a diehard AEW fan base cheering for Christian over Kenny Omega. I don't know if that's necessarily the reaction that they want from their heel champion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be like a Rampage or a Dynamite or something, and then we might find out afterwards what we're getting it All Out or whatever.
You know what I think we're going to get this week though, because like Pittsburgh, like
yeah.
I think Kurt Angle. I think we're getting Kurt Angle.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, like, because why not? Like, I don't think he's going to come in and wrestle every week or maybe wrestle at all, but like
or something.
Like, I saw this awesome scenario that like it won't happen because JR totally screwed up on commentary, but like when everyone thought that MJF was going to be the special ref in the Jericho Wardlow match, someone online had like the most brilliant idea I've ever seen, and they were like, okay, well, what they should do is
put him in the ankle, or put MJF in the ankle.
Yeah, and that's how he'd have to count because he's like tapping out to the ankle lock, and that's how he counts the 1, 2, 3 because he won't count it for Jericho. But even if it's like MJF on the outside and Kurt Angle comes out and like, you know, evens the odds in some way or something, I just feel like AEW, they're in Pittsburgh. Angle's not anywhere right now. Like,
yeah,
and you know he's probably fiending to get involved. Like, he's probably feeling the same way Sting did when he's like, dude, that retirement from WWE, like, that's not how I want to be remembered. Like,
right,
you know,
I feel you there.
So
yeah, no, man, I don't know. I don't think he seems really against wrestling, but I definitely could see him making an appearance. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Chris Warden with the super chat. Appreciate it, Chris. Evening, guys. Just away on vacation, but still had to check in and support my boys. Also, if Rampage does big numbers, do you think the network will want 2 hours? Yeah, I don't see why not. And honestly, the as many guys as AEW signing right now, like, I'm all for Rampage being 2 hours. I think that you know, you sell them on an hour, but if it's something that's just as successful as Dynamite, let's say, then I think they would get 2 hours, and then that's more money. That's more money for the company. And, you know, so many people want to talk about this video game deal and them being in the red and all this stuff. Like, dude, they're fine. I'm not worried about that at all.
No.
You know, honestly, I would be more concerned if they invested like that much money into a movie, because I think what we're seeing now more than ever is the movie industry is dying and you're not able to get the returns on an investment. I saw that like James Bond would need to make $900 million just to be even. And right now, movies aren't even making 200 million. Like, it's a total disaster right now. All these movies are bombing. Nobody's going to the theater anymore. Like, it's bad shape. So, like, imagine if AEW invested a ton of money into the movies or something like that, then that would be a problem. At the end of the day, if that video, like, they're going to be just fine. And even if it's not a huge success, I still think they're going to be just fine. They're really gaining momentum.
Well, and didn't WWE do exactly that, like with their own film department and everything? Like,
yeah, they busted.
Oh, yeah. Now I'll also ask this because I know what I think, but your opinion: if they do 2 hours on Rampage, do you have the first hour overlap the second hour of SmackDown?
Yes.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, why not? Why not at this point? And boy, that gets fun.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Because people are going to be like, do I watch Roman Reigns or like Kenny Omega's about to have a match to start the show? Like, like you got to make that choice. And it's
or
like
CM Punk or
yeah,
Daniel Bryan or Bray Wyatt's about to debut or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, no. And honestly, I hope their vision of Rampage is like almost like a third hour of Dynamite. Like these are main event players. This is a big show. This is not like Dark Elevation with like one big player on it. Like, you know, like how they sometimes have Darby or Sting on Dark Elevation. Like, I hope that's not their idea of Rampage. I hope Rampage is like a big deal and there's always like a big match and it's something to look forward to, which in my opinion, that's what it's going to be. If I'm proven wrong, I'm proven wrong. But right now that's the outlook that I have for it.
I feel the same way. And Dark Elevation are basically like your WCW Saturday night type shows.
Yes.
Which
100%.
Which 100% have their purpose. It's a way of getting the talents that don't often win on Dynamite wins so they aren't complete losers. And also a way to just continue to establish your actual stars. Like, I think there's definitely room for squash matches, like how they do it on Dark. Brian Cage goes out there, does 3 moves, 1, 2, 3. You see his stuff, and then you know, like, and we'll talk about it in a second with like the UFC during the show, but like Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane literally just writes itself because they're 2 winners that people want to see who's the best between the 2. And then if one of them loses, if they win a couple, they're right back there. Like they never like, you know, it's not this loss, win, loss, win, loss. And then by the certain point, everyone's just way down here and nobody's up here. Like, you know,
and
it
not
writes
only
itself.
that, like if you're there live, it is a journey now. You're there for a long time, but you literally get a chance to see like almost the entire roster. Like from they're literally like between Dark and Elevation, there's literally like 21 matches. Mm-hmm. And then you have Dynamite, which is like another 6 to 8 matches. And then you have like people coming in and out in segments and like you see almost the whole damn roster. So it's especially if you're like a kid, like to be able to see everybody, like that's a very cool experience.
Dude, especially like us, like we came up in the era where like I was watching pay-per-views on scrambled screens and stuff because like there was no distribution or like my parents didn't have pay-per-view or God forbid, right? Like you didn't have any kind of like tape VCR thing set up to where you could record the shows you missed. Like I used to be so bummed out if I missed WCW Saturday night. I felt like my whole week was ruined because like I didn't get to see the one show I wanted to watch all week and I didn't have a way of recording it or whatever. And now you literally just go on YouTube. Like everyone has it. You can put it on your TVs, any device you've got, and it's accessible. So if you're a kid who loves pro wrestling, and you're really for any real wrestling fan, but like kids especially, like people can look at the WWE and be like, okay, well, it's for kids, which it is. But at the same time, kids who love AEW and are going to love AEW, they have access to the product everywhere, just at their fingertips. Like this is great stuff. Like it's awesome to have an option on YouTube like that that's free, that people can just watch and enjoy without having to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love the Road 2s. I think they're fantastic. They always fire me up. I just love when they emphasize on bigger like matches that maybe don't seem as big, and then after you watch those, it's like, wow, this feels like a pay-per-view now. Like I just love that, and they use their social media game right. This is another thing that I want to talk about too, is like all these journalists are getting nailed as like AEW sheep, and what people need to realize at the end of the day, all these journalists are fans, right? And so the reason they put over AEW so much and trash the WWE is the reason that we do the same thing. We're fans. We're happy with the product. And so like people are like, well, Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp and Brian Alvarez and Dave LaGreca and Bully and all these people that they want to smash and like say that they're biased and all this stuff. Like they're fans. And so if they think that it's way better, they're going to say it's way better at the end of the day. And people want like just like straight down the line reporting and stuff. And it's like, you can't do that because one show is giving you what you want and another show isn't. Like it's just simple.
Well, most of the journalists or quote unquote journalists or personalities or whatever that support the WWE like to no end, like to just blindly support it, are employed by the WWE or Fox. Yeah. So it's like, Ryan Satin and Sam Roberts. I love Sam Roberts to death, but he's a WWE shill. It's just the truth.
Definitely.
Rosenberg, all these guys, they're all just, even Ariel Helwani to a degree. Like he's been 100%. Tweeting about it a lot. And he's not employed by them, but I had like a quick little combo with him on Twitter the other day, and it was like, he only watches Raw because his kids like it, but like he's fully aware of like what's happening in AEW. You know what I mean? Like for him, AEW probably is a lot more exciting, but he likes to watch Raw because his kids like it so much.
If you want a better vibe of like someone that follows MMA that likes is Mark Ramundi. Mark Ramundi's at PWG, likes AEW. Like he goes and sees all the stuff. So like, I would definitely follow him. I
had him on my podcast years ago when he was like just getting into the indies and to watch him like, because I was
at now,
dude. Me and him were doing. We were doing like Wrestle Kingdom like reviews and stuff probably like 5 years ago, and he was like, he was a wrestling fan and he had been a fan before, but he was just kind of getting back into it. And now he's like, he's so all in on it that he's on every PWG and he's writing about wrestling for ESPN and all this stuff. So it's good to see. Mark's a good dude. I'm happy to see all that.
Yeah, for sure. So we got 42 people in here. If you haven't liked this video, please do. I'm not sure where we are in the likes right now, but
31.
31. So if you guys haven't liked the video, please do. It helps us out. I appreciate it. If you have any more super chats, send them this way. But yeah, man. So GCW, I thought had another great show. I mean, like the first 4 or 5 matches were fantastic. So
I got to pull the card up because I can't remember the full. I watched like 5 or so shows over the span of like 2 days. Off the top of the dome,
Lee Moriarty versus AJ Gray right off the bat. And by the way, they had a huge house for that show. The crowd was on fire. Thing was packed. It looked great. That was a good match. The only thing that was weird is like, was AJ really hurt or was he just selling that he couldn't be on the top turnbuckle?
I think he botched it, but
he sold it like it was meant to be.
He sold it perfect, and they also didn't go back to it. I respected that. A lot of the time when a botched spot goes down, they like eventually like they'll just try to do it again, like, or that'll be the next thing you see is them trying to do it again. Mm-hmm. AJ didn't go back up to the top to try it again. The only reason I think it was a botch is because it was a tribute to Bobby Eaton.
He looked up and then he fell.
Right, and you figure he would have like just hit the leg drop,
right?
You know? But that said, I mean, obviously I love AJ Gray and I love Lee Moriarty, so it just things happen. But dude, like you said, AJ sold it so well that like I'm honestly not 100% sure if it was a botch.
Yeah, I couldn't tell either. It was weird. But yeah, that was great. And then it was either ASF and Jimmy Lloyd or it was Starboy Charlie and Chris Dickinson, which I thought both were fantastic matches.
Yeah, and Starboy Charlie got that win back from Dickinson because Dickinson beat him a couple months back in a really good one.
And I loved it too because Sean Waltman was on the commentary, and in his mind, like, there's no way that Starboy's gonna win this match. Like, Dickinson's too big and all. And then when he won, it was just like, whoa, wow, okay. But it kind of reminded me of like the 1, 2, 3 kid watching himself. Like I thought that was cool. And then that got a like from Effie on my Twitter. And then,
speaking of Effie, that was another match. Effie and Alley Catch versus SG, or they're all SGC versus Justice and Warner.
She brought out a legit knife and cut Justice in the stomach, and I was just like, "Oh wow, like this is going pretty far."
My brother was freaking out. He's like, "They're not really doing this, are they?" I was
right?
Like, yeah, dude, that's real. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, like she legit cut him.
She took Mance Warner's blood off his forehead and made whiskers with it. And then Effie put the dot on her nose with it. It's like, these sick freaks, dude.
Yeah, that's exactly what it came across.
But I mean, that's what the crowd's there for. And dude, coming out to Pantera's Walk, RVD style, and the whole crowd, that is such a great entrance.
Is the crowd doesn't get it behind it like they should, but LA did. Like they were really behind it. So it really reminded you of the RVD. I almost want RVD to come out with them one time just to like pay homage.
That would pop those guys so hard. Like Matthew Justice is basically not trying to be Rob Van Dam, but he's if I could pick one guy out the Indies that I'm like, this guy should have been in the original ECW, it's Matthew Justice.
That man is nuts. That man is plain nuts. I've seen him in person. He's crazy. He's absolutely crazy.
Dude probably would give anything to get hit in a chair by Balls Mahoney. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's like, man, I just wish he would just
no hands either.
In the chair. Yeah.
No hands, just get drilled.
Yeah.
I thought Dante and Ninja Mac killed it. I loved it. And then
they unmasked Ninja, even though he wrestles that unmasked sometimes.
Yeah, I don't really get what he wants to do. I'm going to talk to him about that when I see him at Loco. Like, mask, no mask, like, what's the story? Same thing with like Mysterious Q too, because if you watch Reality of Wrestling, he doesn't have a mask on. But then when you see him on the Indies, he has a mask on. And he told me it was just like a tribute to Hayabusa, but it's like, dude, one or the other. Like, make up your mind.
Yeah, I think for Ninja Mac, I think they're just kind of like counting on a lot of the newer audience didn't know that he wrestled without a mask before. So now he'll wrestle without it going forward, but it'll be like he was unmasked by Dante Leone.
Right. So yeah, like that was great. And then it was Joey Janela and Marco Stunt versus Ricky Shane Page and Atticus Cogar. So I thought that was good. I didn't expect much from the Nick Gage match because I didn't know who he was facing or anything. But, I mean, they went to war. That was a really good match. Like, honestly, that whole show was fire.
Who did Jimmy Lloyd wrestle?
ASF.
That was it. Because that was good. That was really good.
It's supposed to be Deppen. And Deppen couldn't get in because of, like, travel issues.
So I got to say this because I've been kind of not the guy's biggest fan over the years, but Jimmy Lloyd's a lot better than what I've given him credit for. Like I just got to keep it real with that. Like his physique kind of bothers me, but he's only like 22 or 23 years old.
Was he a former kids actor?
I think so.
So I've been trying to Google it, find it. I couldn't find anything, but Matt said something to Smart Mark Sterling in one of the things, and he talks about how he's a child actor, and then like he's like, was he really? And then he's like, we'll talk off the air. So like I don't know, but I guess there's stuff out there that he was a child actor. So that kid went from being a child actor to a deathmatch wrestler. So
and like, dude, I don't know this for sure. I hope you can ask him, but when you talk to Ninja Mac.
Yeah.
So I reached out like months back to Ninja Mac to try to interview him. We wound up not being able to do it, but I don't hold anything against him. Obviously a big fan. But part of the holdup was he has an agent, which is really rare on indie wrestling that you have an agent.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he's like a stunt man or something that like there was like maybe an opening on some wrestling shows. He like kind of knew what to do. And then he just got like super over by doing just this crazy, these flips. And then he just like leaned into wrestling at this point. And he's still trying to figure out like, should he be the masked guy? Should he not? Like Ninja Mac, and he's always changing it like Ninja FUCK Mac or Ninja Kamikaze Mac, or like I think he's literally on the fly trying to figure out what to do because he just got kind of like thrown into this. But he's doing his bookings through an agency.
At first, he had like the MC Hammer black pants with just a shirt that said Ninja Mac, and now he's like dressed up like a legit ninja. He has a black and a red costume, so it's like
he throws ninja stars.
and then he plays like he's a dealer at meet and greets. Like he's like dressed in a suit, and he does like card games, and like you pay to play the dealer. And I don't know, man. It's all over the place.
Want to make a bet?
And I don't know if like his agent is like Jaime, who's like the guy of Loco, or like if it's like just some actual random agent. Like
no idea.
Because Jaime, I mean, he has him at his school all the time, and stuff like that. So I don't know, but he's definitely around Houston all the time. And he's a fan, man, because like when New Texas has shows, when like RWR has shows, like he shows up just to watch. Like he'll just be in the back with like Lowrider or somebody sitting in the corner watching the shows. So
that's cool. I mean, I'm a big fan of what he's doing. It's just I think he's the first person. It's definitely the first indie wrestler that I've ever talked to that like had to go through an agent to do a podcast.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
it was. Yeah,
interesting.
And good for him. I mean, hopefully he just, hopefully they're just setting him up for success. He's definitely one of my favorite guys on the scene right now. Like I really enjoy what he's doing.
But it's like, can that go to mainstream? Like, do you think Ninja Mac could get over in an AEW, or do you think it's just an indie thing, or what do you think?
You can get over in AEW. There's enough of a crossover audience there. All they need to see him do is that back handspring, back flip over the ropes, and people would be like, all right, like never seen that before. Like put him versus like Ray Phoenix on Dynamite or something. You know what I mean? Like
I think if they did like Pac versus like Cartwheel on Dark, but they let Cartwheel like, go a little bit, like do like 10, 12-minute match. Like I think they would be like, sign that guy immediately. You know what I mean?
I think Cartwheel has a lot of potential. I think he's a little more green than Ninja and ASF.
Definitely. But I mean, if you're AEW and you can sign that kid at 21,
exactly.
Go for it,
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree.
Also, shout out to Denise. She did a good job.
She did. I actually direct messaged her while I was watching the show. I sent her a message. Let me pull it up real quick. I sent her a nice little I know I sent it to her. Yeah, I said just had a chance to watch GCW and did awesome on ring announcing. You killed it. So very good, Denise. I did, in fact, make sure to let her know that. And I mean, that's a tough gig. I mean, MLJ is like their dude. And
I was like, is she gonna introduce Nick Gage? Like, how awkward would that be for her? Like, I think it'd be awesome, but it'd also be really nerve-wracking because that crowd is so like
bloodthirsty and just ready to jump. But
and it's like if she messed that up in any way, that crowd would eat her alive.
But she killed it on what she did, and she's into deathmatch. It's like she likes the deathmatch wrestling, which I didn't know until I started to get to know her a little bit through Fightful. And me and her did a show not that long ago, and during the show, we were talking about something that had to do with deathmatches, and she was like marking out, and I was like, "Wait, you like this kind of stuff?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, like the bloodier, the more violent, the better." I was like, "Really?" And she was like, "What? Just because I'm a girl, I can't like it?" And I was like, "No, it's because you're a very bubbly girl. Like it's not that you're like I did not expect to hear you say that." Right. And I gained a lot of respect for because I'm like, it's one thing to be like indirect. I'm not saying deathmatch wrestling has to be for everybody. I'm definitely not saying that. Pick and choose what wrestling you like. But for her, it's one thing to like be watching WWE and be like talking about it on YouTube. It's another thing to be like watching deathmatch wrestling and then like, you know what I mean? Then going and doing like because she's so all over the place right now. Like now, like she's got her toes in the deathmatch scene, but she's also got her toes in like the
Bellator.
Yeah, Bellator. But she comes from like some like I'm gonna misquote but she comes from like an Access Hollywood type thing. You know what I mean? Like, so it's cool. It's super, super cool that she's into all this stuff. Like Denise is awesome. Like for those of you who might not be familiar, because she gets a lot of crap too, just because she is a girl, and there are people who think that they deserve it more than her and stuff. She works her ass off. When me and her do shows together for Fightful, she does all the work. Like I just show up and give my opinion. She's the one who got the layouts and all the notes and all that. I mean, she makes it so easy to work with because she works so hard. So I'm on Team Denise for sure.
Yeah, no, she's great. She has such good energy, and like she will make you feel excited about Raw, and that's hard to do. You know what I mean? Like
that's an act.
That's a talent in itself. So yeah, props to Denise. All right, so let's get a little MMA. So I had absolutely zero interest in Cyril Gane versus Derek Lewis the week of the fight, but I guess like come Friday, Saturday, I'd watched the press conference, I saw the weigh-in. I'm like, all right, I'll look into it. And you know, I'm not glad I got COVID. But like, if I didn't get COVID, I probably would have talked myself into going to buy a ticket. And because I had COVID, I didn't have to make a difficult decision. I missed it, right? So watched the fight, and I was super impressed by Cyril Gane. And then I started watching the countdown shows because this is the type of obsessive person I am. Is when you start to gauge my interest, I want to know everything about you, right? And so then I'm like, what did I miss about this guy? So I started watching the countdown show. I started looking at his past. So he was 13-0 at Muay Thai.
Yep.
And then he got trained by the same trainer, Francis Ngannou. They were in the same camps. They trained together. And now he's 10-0 in MMA. And so the guy hasn't lost. And one thing that I saw in going back, and then I started looking at his Sheerdog record, and I was like, God, dude, he's actually beat some legit names, Rosenstrike and, you know, some other guys. Volkov. And one thing that I saw was like he seems really comfortable at fighting. Like he enjoys it and he's not intimidated. Like he smiles, he's happy, you know, like he doesn't seem like a guy that'd be like, oh, Francis too big. I don't want to really, you know, like he's just like, come on, Francis, let's go, let's fight. You know, like he seems totally down to fight. So I'm very intrigued by this fight now.
Yeah, I think Cyril Gane is a really good example of like the type of fighter that someone like Joe Rogan's been talking about since like forever with the UFC, where this guy is just like an all-around athlete that can do it all. Yeah. And he's like, the discipline's there, the humbleness is there. Like he's a complete mixed martial artist. We haven't had to see a whole lot of him on the ground, but he's so world-class in the striking element. It's kind of like this. It's one of these things where he's going to present problems for everybody in that division. Yep. Like, and then of course the big question is like, can he beat? Is he going to fight Francis Ngannou next, and can he beat him?
Yeah.
Which I think you got to do that fight next, and you got to figure a way of getting John Jones and Stipe in the cage together. Like that's got to be the.
What I love about the sport of MMA is I could give a crap about Derek Lewis and Cyril Gane, and by the time that the fight is over, I care about Cyril Gane versus Francis Ngannou, and I want to see that fight. That's what MMA has that no other sport has. It can capture you when you don't care. And honestly, Vicente Luque versus Nate Diaz didn't seem like that great of a fight. Now, I think it's a great fight. I think you should do that fight. I really do. So it's just MMA just takes care of itself. There's no better sport in the world that just takes care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. And it makes you interested in the whole Francis versus Gane prospect because like Lewis, I know Lewis technically beat Francis, but like that fight is like such a wash in most people's minds. Like that wasn't really them being them. That was a weird fight. But I think Francis is more dynamic than Lewis is. But at the core of it, he's very similar from the sense that like Francis is going to be most successful within the first couple rounds if he can knock you out.
Yep.
Gane's going to not gas out for 5 rounds. He's
Yep.
going to keep distance. He's got good footwork and head movement. He's just a very, very good athlete.
He also could take Francis down if he's in trouble. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, he's not going to just be stuck standing. If he's hurt, he can do stuff. He can try to take him down. He has some jiu-jitsu. Like, he's a well-rounded fighter.
He controlled Lewis in every clinch scenario.
104 strikes to 8 was the total CompuBox between the two.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. Like, he proved, I don't think he has the same kind of one punch knockout power that Ngannou does,
No.
but he can, the comparison's always the Diaz brothers, but the idea of like you punch, you know, at 50, 75%. And then when you're hurt, he goes in for the kill. And I think he's going to be really successful with that. I still think that Ngannou is going to win. Like, I just can't pick against him right now against anybody.
Yeah.
But if there's anyone in the division that can beat him, I think Gane has the best chance of anybody, except for maybe John Jones. But we have to see how he looks at heavyweight first to like really know.
So I noticed I missed a super chat. This was from Frankie. When it comes to pro wrestling, MMA, and football, how would you rank them as far as what interests you the most right now? Right now, it's pro wrestling. It's MMA and then football. But man, when football starts, it's gonna be pro wrestling, maybe football, MMA, maybe football, pro wrestling. I doubt them. What's coming in pro wrestling is so phenomenal that it's gonna be hard to know. But that's where it's at. But you never know. I'll be super pumped for Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler and things coming up. So it's kind of tough to say.
Yeah, I have the same exact feeling as you do. Like, you know, if AEW didn't exist, it'd probably look different for me.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, week 1 of NFL season though, it's going to be NFL like over everything. Like, I'm going to be so hyped to see the Vikings back on the field. Like,
we kick it off with the Cowboys and Buccaneers on the Thursday night. That is going to be a game.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I mean, but that's a good question from the sense of like it's hard to rank the 3. I love all 3 of those things.
Yes, definitely.
But so thank you for the super chat. That's a very good question. But if I had to pick like one of the 3, now pro wrestling and MMA have the advantage on football because they're year round.
Yeah.
But like if they were only like seasonal, I'd probably take the Minnesota Vikings over everything.
Wow.
Like I'm like that, like because I just
no, it can be the same way with me too. But it's just hard right now because AEW is
trust me, like
and all that stuff. But yeah, AEW I get it.
Yeah. I just man, I mean that's a hard thing to say. It's just, and part of it too is the Vikings have never won a Super Bowl. Like there's still so much invested in me of like them getting that done in my lifetime, like that, you know. But I could never give up any of the 3. It would be too hard to make that decision. But
for sure.
But yeah, those definitely my favorite 3 things though. You named my 3 favorite things: professional football, mixed martial arts, and professional wrestling. So.
Yeah, that's pretty much me. I mean, movies used to be really up there, but Hollywood has gone so corporate and so PC, it's disgusting. So, you know, but those 3 pretty much are it for me too. And I do like boxing. God, I'm so disappointed Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence isn't happening. That sucks so bad.
That replacement looks good though.
Yeah, man.
Didn't he like the champion as something or other?
Yeah,
himself?
But I mean, boxing champion and other it's not the same. And Manny's like a goat. Like that's a waste of Manny's time. I'm so pissed.
Errol Spence is out for how long? Did they say?
No, he has a torn retina, so you know. And then the problem is Manny is a senator for the Philippines, and so like politically, he can't fight a lot of times. Like he schedules fights. And like that's all he can do. He can't just be like, okay, fine, we'll run it back after this. Like now it's probably next year, and he'll be 43, and like it sucks.
And like speaking of boxing, that's kind of how, to a degree, the Derek Lewis and Cyril Gane fight, and I could kind of say the same about Cyril Gane versus Nganou possibly. It kind of reminded me of the dynamic of Wilder and Fury, where you had like one dude who like is only going to be successful if like Wilder has no technique, but he can knock people out.
Yeah.
But like Fury has the footwork and the head movement and can pepper people up. So it was like one guy who can do that and one guy that's just headhunting for a few rounds. You know what I mean?
So the only thing with Wilder this time though was like he never had to change his style because it always worked.
Right.
So
and it was exciting to watch. It was really exciting to watch.
No, for sure. So now it's like how much after like a year layoff of trying to change your style, getting new trainers, all that, like how much have you learned? How much have you adapted? And like, is that good enough to beat Tyson Fury? That was the whole point of it. And now it's like, who knows when that fight will ever happen?
Yeah, just make sure you you wear entrance gear that's less than 70 pounds or whatever.
75 pounds. I couldn't move my arms.
Yeah, whatever.
Stop it.
You got your ass beat. Just get over
Dirty again. Shout out to Dirty. Who in the UFC featherweight division do you think Aj Mckee can beat? I mean, honestly, I think he could beat Volkanovski. I think
really?
I don't know if he could beat Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway beat Volkanovski the third fight. I think that he beat him. So to me, I think that Max Holloway would be an interesting one. I'm really curious to see what Ortega does. I think Ortega is the favorite against Volkanovski, in my opinion. I think Ortega's gonna beat him. But I mean, like, AJ's undefeated. We just don't know. But I mean, the explosiveness, the well-roundedness, like the guy is just, I feel like he's that next level athlete. And I could be totally wrong. You could get probably smoked by the top 5. I don't know. But like, just from the eye test, I mean, I think he's one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I don't know if I could take him over any one of the top 5 in the UFC right now. But maybe in the top 7 or 8. Like I'm looking at the rankings right now. Like I'd take Volkanovski, Ortega, Holloway, Yair, and Zombie over him personally.
I think he would beat Yair. I really do.
But then you have to say he'd probably beat Zombie then too, because I mean Yair beat Zombie and everything.
I think he would beat Zombie. He's way faster than Zombie.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know with the talent level in Bellator.
I agree. And that's the same thing with like a Cyril Gane too, right? I mean, he's undefeated. We don't know. Like,
but it's in the UFC against.
No, I agree. And we're gonna get to see him face the best. So we're gonna find out. You know what I mean? That's the frustrating thing when it's two different promotions.
So like the perfect fight for someone like Aj Mckee to like gauge him in the UFC would be someone versus like Calvin Kattar or something like that. Like that would be like. Or like Josh Emmett or something like that. Like that would be like, okay, if you can beat these guys, then I want to see you fight a guy like Max Holloway.
No, if you can beat him, like what if he goes in there and smokes him, like round and a half, done. Like,
but then if like Josh Emmett like smokes him, it's like Josh Emmett's a badass, but like you're putting someone in check because like it's just hard.
I know somebody that was at the fight, and there were people in the crowd being like, they don't think that Aj Mckee could beat Aaron Pico. And I'm like,
oh yeah, he would kill Aaron
out
Pico.
Of your mind. You're out of your mind. Like, yeah, it's some hometown bias or something because you're out of your mind.
Yeah, no, that's preposterous. Aj Mckee, I would take 10 out of 10 times over Aaron Pico.
Yeah. The problem with Aj Mckee though is he's pretty much already cleaned out the division.
Yeah, he needs to get out of that contract as fast as he can and get into the UFC.
But if you're Bellator, there's no way in hell you give that kid up.
Well, no, I don't think they're gonna like release him. I'm just saying he needs to fight out his contract. But yeah, Bellator's gonna throw a lot of money his way because they want him to stay as like one of their stars. But I mean, and he could do that. Like, I mean, it's just whatever his prerogative is. Like, if he just wants to make a lot of money and Viacom/Bellator can give it to him and he's happy there, that's fine. And he can go up to the lightweight division and try his luck there as well. But if he wants to try to prove that like he's the best, then he would have to fight Volkanovski or a Holloway type guy to like really establish that. But
I mean, I think if he signs with the UFC, he's getting a killer, like right off the bat.
Yeah, well, like I said, even a guy like Calvin Kattar, like that's literally the number 5 ranked guy, and like that would be a really good litmus test. Someone like that. Yeah. But the problem with putting him right in there against like Volkanovski is like if Volkanovski just smokes him, then people are just going to think that Mckee just like was gifted a shot and like they're, he's going to drop down even farther probably. But
definitely,
I mean, regardless, I don't want to sound like I'm being harsh on Aj Mckee. I think what he's done in Bellator has been absolutely incredible. I just think that there's a big, like, I know Pitbull is obviously a world-class level guy, but all the guys that Mckee beat to get to Pitbull, none of them would sniff the top 15 of the UFC. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. No, I feel you. I mean, there were a lot of people, though, that were really high on Pitbull, talking about him being the best in that whole division, like, period, like, no matter what company. And, I mean, he won pretty quickly. So, I'm not saying that he is that guy, but I also think that it's so hard to tell when they're undefeated and they could be the best in the world. We just don't know.
Exactly. And I do think they're going to run back Mckee and Pitbull at some point.
I think it might be for 155 this time, though.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, because he can go try to get that title, too, that Pitbull already has. That actually is exactly what they should do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really hate Champ. I think it's the worst, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. They need to get access to Kayla Harrison.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
Do her as Cyborg.
And I think Cyborg can make 155 easy.
Yeah, why wouldn't she? She's been fighting at 145 for all these years.
Right. So, I mean, she wouldn't have to cut as much weight.
Yeah.
Like, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Doesn't Clarissa Shields fight again soon?
I don't remember. I mean, that was so unimpressive the first time that, like...
I'm pretty sure she's fighting on the same card as Kayla Harrison in a couple of weeks.
I know I said it before, they really should have done her and Kayla next, even though Kayla would absolutely smoke her, because if Shields loses to some no-name, like, you're never going to have that money match there for you anymore. At this point, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Kayla Harrison beats Clarissa Shields no matter how many wins Clarissa Shields gets beforehand. So, just do it now. But that's just my opinion.
What did you so Kenny Omega this weekend is facing Andrade at AAA. Yeah. Is Kenny going to lose one of the belts?
I personally don't think Kenny should lose anything until he loses the AEW title. Right. But I think there is a story that could be told if he does lose the AAA title and then does lose the Impact title, and that all builds up to him. We've talked about it before, him getting all paranoid and stuff with the AEW title and not wanting to lose that. And then Hangman's the one to do that, and it puts Kenny in like a complete downward spiral.
Right.
And then that may build his own redemption story as a good guy at some point. Or like that's when you bring in Ibushi, and it's like Ibushi needs to like bring him back to like the right side of things or something. Like,
which would be beautiful.
Yeah. So that'd be a pretty cool story. Like Hangman's the one that breaks this is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then Kenny's just a complete shell of himself, and Ibushi like builds him back up with him or something. Right. And then they full on mouth to mouth make out in the middle of the ring. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be the worst idea in the world for Andrade to win the AAA title. Like I could see him doing
Andrade get some tights. I'm not a fan of him wrestling in the slacks. I don't think that comes across very, very good. It looks like he got in a street fight in his dress clothes.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really bother me too much, to be honest, but I think they're gonna have a really damn good match. I am interested. Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting from the sense that like realistically, either guy could win. Like you're not going into it like with a foregone conclusion like you are with a lot of Kenny Omega's like Impact title offenses and stuff.
I also think if he does lose, then the belt collector gimmick is coming to an end.
Right. But he
could just freak out and just go get another belt. You know
that's really like. At this point, he should just be the one to beat Nick Aldis for the NWA title. Like nobody is going to get the rub off of all this that's in the NWA at this point. They have nobody ready. Tyrus just won their freaking TV title from the Pope.
I saw that.
Tyrus, like, legitimately might be the worst wrestler on earth. Right? Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, he's like the worst I'm seeing in any. I watch every company for the most part, and like he might be the worst guy.
I was never a fan of Brodus Clay, like ever. I had to watch him and CM Punk at a Raw live one time, and it was just so disappointing that they were wasting Punk on a Brodus Clay match. And definitely his political views are controversial as well. Like it makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't get NWA. I've never been a fan. So
yeah, they're making some pretty bad moves in my opinion. But then you also have like
Melina versus
Brazo.
like that is not. not only that, you built up her and Mckee, and then you bring in Melina, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's probably just not going to be very good. I mean, Deonna Purrazzo is very good, but I don't think that match is going to be good. And then you have MLW too. Like, I really want to see Kenny and Jacob Fatu for that that title. They're gonna do Jacob Fatu and Hammerstone, and Hammerstone may win the title from him. But regardless, I want to see Kenny going after that title. I want to see Kenny going after Bandito in the ROH title.
I would love if Davey could somehow become champion and him and Kenny run that back for ROH days. Like, just a cool, like, one-time thing. I would love that so much.
Or Davey very well could win the MLW title sometime in the near future. I mean, it's possible.
Yep.
So that from that sense, like, I want to see the belt collector thing keep going because there are other titles he can go after. And like, it would, I know I've talked about this before, but because people get so butthurt and like, so fixated on this whole idea that like the Forbidden Door, they're not doing enough for other companies and stuff. And it's like, if you get Kenny Omega on your show, if you're MLW, even if it's for a couple shows, your numbers are going to spike a lot for these shows because people are going to come in to see Kenny. Yep. And then it's on you to cook them. Like that's been the problem with Impact Wrestling is like you have access to Kenny Omega and he spikes ratings sometimes. He spiked them real big the first time he showed up on Impact.
Yeah.
But the rest of the show around it is like people being like, oh, I don't really like Sami Callihan that much, though. Oh, I don't really like Eddie Edwards that much, though.
Their pay-per-views do okay, too, like, for the most part, if Kenny's involved.
Well, their big four pay-per-views always do well for Impact because they get a lot of buzz for those 4 times a year. But
it's like when you're watching Slammiversary, right? Mm-hmm. And you're watching that. When Kenny Omega comes out, it's like taking it to a different level. Like, it's like, oh, okay, like, this is a big deal. You know what I mean? But like you said, then they're putting him in there with Sami Callihan. So it's like, I don't know. Like, to me, like a perfect scenario would be like if Impact signed like a Buddy Murphy and then he was the one that called out Kenny, because I think they would have an absolute banger of a match.
Well, that's like Murphy's like dream match.
I think Murphy's going to AEW. I honestly do. Like, I feel like him and Black have kind of hinted at it. Like, you hear stuff too, like they said, like they signed that tag. They didn't sign it, but they're using that tag team 2.0 or whatever it is.
Everrise 2.0.
Yeah. And then like Tony Nese was backstage, they said. Like, I really don't think that they give a damn about numbers right now. And if you're good, they want you. So to me, if that's the philosophy, like Buddy Murphy's got to be way up there.
Yeah, I think he's gonna look great. But like I was saying, the whole thing with Kenny is like you just have to surround the rest of the show with stuff that you want, like that you're gonna get people to want to come back and keep seeing when you don't have Kenny. Like that's when it's on the company itself.
Give me Kenny Omega and Ace Austin. Like,
I've been saying that every week, yeah.
And build that up like for a reason, like not just to be like, hey, Kenny's gonna face Ace Austin for like a 8-minute match. Like, give it a legit shot.
Yeah, no, I agree. They can do that with him. They can do it with Chris Bay. They can do it with Willie Mack. Like, they have people. Josh Alexander. Josh Alexander will probably be the one to beat Kenny for the Impact title. That's who I think will do it. Yeah. And I like that idea because Josh Alexander has looked fantastic since him and Ethan Page broke up the North.
Now, did he re-sign though, or is he going to be a free agent soon?
I don't know. He would be a free agent soon if he hasn't re-signed.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't like Kiera Hogan backstage. I think I read that she was also backstage at AEW. So I know if she.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either. Okay. Well, no, she's already out of Impact.
She's not.
Kiera Hogan's out. Kiera Hogan's out of contract. She's a free agent.
Okay.
So, but like, I mean, but I think so. It's like two things. One being that I think AEW or Impact Wrestling, part of their booking, like their holdup with some of this stuff and like their reservation on pushing certain people is because they can't keep them long term. So like I think they're booking Ace Austin assuming he's going to leave. They're booking Morrissey now assuming he's going to leave.
Yeah,
they're booking,
makes sense.
but they were able to hold on to people like Jordan Grace and Moose. So they're capable of keeping people.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I think the best chance they have of keeping these people is by giving them strong pushes. Like, I think it's more likely that Ace Austin's going to stay if you've made him like the world champion of your company. But if you're just making him like this kind of like lower level guy, then of course he's going to want to test out free agency and go somewhere else, because like he wants to be a star somewhere.
Right.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like you want to push the talents to get them to stay, and because they're talented and you want to see what you can do with them. But if they leave, you've just built all this up and then they bail. Now you got to start from scratch with somebody else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, or you can just focus on having just the best wrestling show possible and just keep rebuilding your roster. I mean, I
agree.
remember like with Ring of Honor, like they would lose guys all the time, but then they would just push somebody else and they would just keep building stars. And, you know, that was way before the Sinclair broadcasting days and all that stuff. But I feel like that can be the best philosophy. So what do you think about the New Japan show this weekend?
I haven't really looked over the card, but I told you today, like I've got it ready to watch. So
yeah, it looks good, man. Especially with Moxley's secret partner. I'm curious if we get more hints of Moxley and maybe Tanahashi at All Out or anything like that. It's a pretty loaded card. I'm not sure what the vibe will be like. It looks like there's about 1,200 people or so that are going to be at the show for the New Japan show. I think it's at an outdoor stadium type deal. So it should be good. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I haven't watched much New Japan lately. Still waiting for Ospreay to be healed.
Yeah, it's Jay White and Finley, isn't it?
Yeah, which is and Finley beat Jay White in like the G1. He beat him in some tournament. I'm not sure if it's the G1 or the New Japan Cup or whatever, but he did beat him, and it was a big upset. So this is kind of like Jay White getting his revenge.
Nice. Well, and also timeline wise, just so you know, Chris Bay is now officially in Bullet Club, like on the show.
Okay.
So they've gotten to that point too. So I'm sure we'll see more of Chris Bay in New Japan. And he's another guy, like I really want to see him in AEW. I know there's a lot of people that are all coming into the company at the same time. Some are bigger stars than others. But like we've been saying, like the room is there right now, and they don't use people every single week. Like I think a guy like Chris Bay would really open a lot of eyes on AEW. Like there's, man, what else is on the? Well, actually, let me ask you this: who do you think the partner is going to be for Jon Moxley at Resurgence?
I think it's going to be somebody from New Japan. That's what I think. I don't think it'll be somebody from AEW.
Shuda?
I'm hoping not. That's like the one that I really don't want to happen because that's the obvious choice, right?
Yeah.
But if it is, it is. But
that act was hilarious, though. Like pre-pandemic,
no,
I was that.
Especially like that. I mean, that was like right when he debuted, and his match with Juice Robinson was crazy, and he was in the G1 and all that stuff. Like Moxley was a madman. I don't know. You got any ideas?
My first thought was Sami Callihan because they were a tag team and they're going to be teaming soon in some other companies.
This is another thing I thought of too. Why didn't Impact do Sami Callihan and Nick Gage? Like they've known each other for a long time, and like you could use that buzz. Like why didn't you pull that trigger?
I honestly think that I don't think any television company wanted to touch Nick Gage, and Tony Khan just said screw it. I think he was just the first one to have the balls to just do it.
That's respect.
Another person, it could be Darby, possibly. I think that'd be pretty huge. And they have the history of being cool, like friends on AEW TV and everything. Yeah,
that would get a pop from the crowd. It could be Eddie Kingston, like that's just who his normal tag team partner is.
And that would still be great. Like I love that. I love their entrance and the whole.
Yeah. Thing, all that.
Nothing's gonna top for me the Bad News Bears and Trent Acid shirt combo. Like for that entrance, that was so sick.
And that was like the first time they used that music, it felt
that
like
version of it.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Well, there's Moose and Ishii, which I'm really looking forward to. I think that could be really good.
That'll be great. I forgot all about that.
So there's some solid matches. It's definitely worth watching, and I'm hoping that it leads to more things. You know, you have Jay White on Impact. You have Tanahashi talking about possibly being it All Out. Like, hopefully this advances some of that story.
Yeah. You know what else they could do? They could do in AEW. There's been a story. I think I actually heard True Slayer maybe talking about this in a recent video that I watched of his. He just uploaded something recently. I don't want to sound like I'm stealing his idea. I think it was him that I heard mention this idea.
This is True Slayer's idea. Okay. Shout out to True Slayer.
True Slayer. I think that's where I heard it. I'm going to give him credit for this, but I may have heard somewhere else. But I think
he's like sitting here like, I never said that.
But it's a great idea. So this is a good thing to give someone credit for.
Okay.
In AEW, we have the story right now where it's what's his, why can't Andrade trying to get the Lucha Bros away from Pac.
Yep.
But what if the Lucha Brothers never come over to Pac? Because it looks like they're going to. Like, it looks like they're going to side. I'm not going to call it the LWO, but like it's like a lot of the Latin wrestlers are starting to kind of form a group over there.
Yep.
But what if they don't turn and like the Death Triangle stays together, but we get Rush and Naito come in to be with Andrade.
Oh my god!
Because you would have Lij right there, like
yes,
yeah. They haven't been on TV together in
Talk
years.
To me, Daddy.
Yeah. Well, how sick would that be? Like Rush, Andrade, and Naito versus Pac, Phoenix, and Sarah Muerto.
I mean, what if they get Rush and Dragon Lee?
Well, I think it's totally possible. If you get one, I think you can get them both. Yeah.
Well, and their contracts, I think, both expire at January. So
yeah,
damn.
But that would be sick. I thought that was a great idea. Like,
well, and that's the thing is, if you just pulled that off for one pay-per-view, and that's it, like that goes down as like that all-out like Young Bucks and Ibushi versus like Bandito and Rey Mysterio and whoever else was with them.
Was it Phoenix?
Was it? It
might have been. Remember.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but like dream scenario type stuff that you don't necessarily have to have like them sign with the company, but just give like that one big match. That's sick.
Yeah, I would love that. So yeah, shout out to Josh, True Slayer. That was a great idea. I really hope that they do that.
Why does McMahon have hatred for NXT? God, I mean,
they got their asses kicked by AEW.
That's just really what it is. Like, I don't think he ever was like a huge fan of it, but it was selling tickets, it was selling merchandise, it was getting people's attention. So he dealt with it, right? But then it's like when it started to not be that, and it just started to be a burden. And something that wasn't producing stars, that the whole point of what the Performance Center was supposed to do, then that's when it was just like, this is crap. And I honestly feel like, and it's kind of been hinted by people in the know, that like Vince has done things like just to teach Hunter a lesson, like just to teach Triple H a lesson, like I will destroy this guy and you can do nothing about it, like vengeful stuff. And it's like, I wonder, like, does Triple H talk with Vince and be like, your old man has lost it. Like, I'm so over this guy. Like, you know, like what kind of conversations are going on in the McMahon household right now?
Yeah, I think you talked about it a little bit earlier with like Bronson Reed being released, and it kind of goes hand in hand with like the booking of Karrion Kross on Raw and all this stuff. Like, I think that part of it, and it ties into that question, is that I think that Vince McMahon gets talked up about certain wrestlers like really big, and they're like, hey, this guy's got to go to Raw or whatever. Like, it's like, this is your next guy. And then Vince sees them in a couple dark matches and it just doesn't click with him. So he probably saw Bronson Reed and was like, oh, this is supposed to be like my next kind of like monster wrestler. Like, there's plenty of other guys we already have that do the same things he does. Or there's like the Odyssey Jones guy in NXT or whatever that like maybe might have more promise than he does, but they both bring something very similar to the table, and he likes Odyssey better than, or whatever it is, whatever the reason. Vince McMahon just doesn't click. Same with Karrion Kross. You've probably heard all this stuff about this is your next Brock Lesnar type guy. This guy is like, we've kept him completely undefeated for over a year in NXT, and he's got this great look and this hot wife and this whole it's the total package and the entrance and blah blah. Then Vince saw it and he was like, this guy's no Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley or Goldberg or John Cena. Like this, what are you talking about? Like I don't see that in this guy at all.
He's from TNA, like Impact. Like I don't think that
Lucha Underground.
And I don't think Vince views those as like great companies at all. So it's kind of like to him, it's just like, okay, and like, yeah, I feel like he would be more comfortable if they just found him like straight out of college, getting done playing pro football and made this guy. But like, I don't think he loves the idea of him getting like an Impact star.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the best chance you have with Vince is like, even if you worked for a company like Impact, to not like, to just like, if it was under another name or another whatever, like just don't even bring up that that's where you were before. Yeah. Like I legitimately think that when they hired EC3, he didn't know it was the same guy that he already had as Derek Bateman. and then he pushed him until he asked what EC3 stood for. And then they were probably like, oh, it's like, Ethan Carter III. It was like, he was Dixie's nephew on the show. And he was like, wait, what?
Got it.
Yeah. Push deleted. Yep. So anyway.
Very, very surprised I let him keep that name. So yeah, that does make sense. Real quick, Manib, any figure updates? Picked up the Macho Austin Ultimate Edition, Britt Baker. Manib, do you have Twitter or anything? I always like to hear from like people that follow wrestlers. Do figure stuff. So I do have a couple of the new Ultimates. I got the Rock and Cena Ultimate, and I was able to get the CM Punk, the classic one. This thing goes for like $200 mock, but I was able to get this thing for like $50. Normally it goes for loose at like $100. So I found a pretty good deal on that. And then I got the Stone Cold and Ric Flair Ultimate Editions as well. And then I do have these that you can only get online. These were pre-orders that you could only get online. I'm trying to get
put the DDP closer to the camera. I want a better look at that one.
It's the
WWE version.
Yep. But like the details in the jacket and everything are really good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. It's the lamest era of DDP, but it looks great.
For sure. But it's like really good details. Okay. Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. But I also I got the Scott Hall on the way, the one with the bandana or whatever.
That's sick, yeah.
Yeah, I bought that loose from a guy for like $30 on Facebook. And then I'm looking for the Bam Bam. And I was able to order the Legends Series 12 on Target, all of them, which was like Junkyard Dog, Kevin Nash Outsider with the bandana. So I'll have both the Outsiders with the bandanas. It was Billy Gunn with the Army get up of like, the Let My People Go on the tank. And then Roddy Piper with the black shirt. I was able to get all those.
The Bam Bams with the ECW, the TV title or the world title?
Yeah, it's the TV title because that's what he feuded with RVD with. So I really want it for my RVD figure that I have.
Nice. I got a couple new purchases. They're all loose though, and they're all kind of like already set up. So I don't know if it's worth show. One of my bucket lists, I finally got one of these. I've wanted this for a very long time, and I finally came across it while I was fig hunting in the wild, but got me a loose Shawn Michaels Bone Cruncher.
Okay.
So pretty happy about that. I got an NWO Hulk Hogan, but it's like it's one of those, they look kind of like the vibrating figures, but they're smaller. Okay. And then I also finally got me a pretty much mint version of the original Green Ranger, like the 8-inch, like the vintage Power Ranger Green Ranger with the gun in the holster and everything. I went to this place in Atlanta, and some guy literally traded it in as I was there, and I was like, yo, I'll buy that from you. Like, I've been looking for that figure. Like, you have the gun with it, and it's in perfect condition, and it's loose. Like, because I hadn't bought it, because when you buy it mint on card, it's so expensive, and I'm going to open it anyway.
Right.
So, and I didn't want to buy like a beat up one all these years. So I've been waiting to find the perfect one, and this guy just happened to walk in right when I was there. And also, I've got a trade brewing right now for
little trade ski.
You know, I've got that White Ranger sword, which you can see on my wall mounted right there. Yeah. I'm gonna put I'm gonna trade for I need the green dagger, and I have this Super Sentai like OG Power Ranger thing too. So I'm doing a straight up weapons trade. This sword for that dagger. So
wow.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
I'm surprised you haven't gone down the Hasbro Power Ranger whole, just the original cast.
They look great. I think they're awesome figures, but they don't. If somebody bought those for me for like a gift, I would 1,000,000,000% I would display them. Same with like the legacy. Like, they have like legacy weapons that are like $200. Like, they're really nice, like Green Ranger daggers and stuff, and the White Ranger sword and whatnot. But for me, like, if I'm going to spend my money, it's got to be the vintage. Like, that's where my nostalgia really lies, is like the vintage toys that I had. But
yeah, hit me up on Twitter and just say, hey, this is me. I'll follow you back. So
yeah, hit me up, Manib. You got the green dagger? That's what's up, dude. If this falls through with my guy, maybe I'll have to hit you up. But no, like, seriously, like, I'm
terrible at like a businessman when it comes to figures, because like I can make a lot of money, and I did make on that huge AEW when I flipped, but like I just don't want to give up my stuff. Like I like all my stuff, so I like, people are like, oh, let's trade or let's do this. I'm like, no, I don't want to trade. I want all my stuff. So
I'm the same way, but that sword was gifted to me, and that's like a 2011 Power Rangers thing. Like, that, I was so far removed. I don't know anything about this sword that I just showed you. It was just like, it was gifted to me by people that know, someone that knows that I collect for stuff. But when I found out it was worth basically the same exact amount of money as that Green Ranger dagger, I started trying to make moves. And that's part of the problem too, is I used to have the Green Ranger dagger, but my parents gave away like all my toys once I was in college. So, but I never had the Green Ranger figure. Like, my neighbor did, but I didn't. So it's something I've always wanted. So
gotcha.
Honestly, that was like, I don't even want to touch it and show you, because I'm so afraid of not being able to put it up again right, and then it falls.
It's okay.
So yeah, no, I know
y'all. What I really want. I tell you what I really want right now is they've released the NECA Ultimate Casey Jones.
Oh, I'm sure that's sick.
It's the one with the head, the face, and everything of the actor, and then it also has the mask as well. So, and then has an additional mask that you can put like in his backpack that's attached to the hockey stick, so you could like put it there too. Like, it's sick. I have to get it. It's only at Walmart though, so looking for that.
I came across the Toka and Razar the other day, mint on card, and it's expensive, man. Like I can't.
How much is it? 100?
It might have been more like 140 when I saw it. Yeah, I mean, maybe, but and then I saw like the big shredder NECA, and that thing was like 200 plus, I think.
Oh wow.
But I mean, I think that's what they go for. I don't think this place was like overpricing. I think that's just what the market's at with these things now.
I think that's the 1/4 quarter scale though, where they're the really
it's big. It's big. Yeah.
So no, it is 200. I'm not saying it's not. Just I can't do that. Because like the shredder that I have back there, that's like 8-inch, and it's like $30. The super shredder.
I just followed you back, Manib. Manib's only got 26 followers. Come on, man. Let's get Manib some followers. The first thing I saw on his Twitter is him retweeting a giveaway for a Power Rangers figure. So I went ahead and followed you. There you go, man.
And then they're also right now, I don't know if you've heard about the ring, the WWE ring that they're trying to get these fans to buy.
Yeah, the one you can pull the canvas off and it's got like the wood underneath and stuff.
Well, and you saw that they added the Ultimate Macho Man.
Yeah.
So like it wasn't going anywhere. Like that thing was like I'd probably say like 17%. and there was only like 20 days left or something. And then they added the Ultimate Macho Man. So if you can just get to 5,000, you get the Ultimate Macho Man and you get the Ultimate Kevin Nash. And these aren't elites, these are ultimates, right? And they come with the box with each one. And then you also get the ring. If you can get to 7,000, you get an Ultimate Edition Doink. Multiple heads, like the whole nine. He has like an actual cloth coat and everything. But man, like it's at 49% now, so that's halfway. But the thing is if you don't get it in by Friday, you do not get the Macho Man. So in my opinion, if it doesn't happen by Friday, it's not happening. So I'm still on the fence because each one of those figures are going to be worth like $100 at least. Like you're going to be able to get your money back for sure. But like I don't want to necessarily spend $278 and wait a whole year before I can get my stuff. And I have no desire for a ring. Like I don't care.
Right.
I don't want a ring.
I'm in the same boat. I think the ring looks cool. Like I like the idea of it, especially if I was a kid and I played with these figures. Like that would be awesome to have.
Plus they have the LED lights and everything. But like the Doink, with you adding that, I mean, normally these things go for $30 a piece. So you're looking at $90 worth of figures. But like resale value, they'll each be worth about $100. Maybe way more, possibly. Maybe $200. Like they might be a lot like the Chase figures. Like because they're not going to re-release them. These are just like special edition only if you order this ring.
Yeah, so for sure.
There's a mad push in the figure community right now trying to get this. Like Cardona's already ordered 5. Like he's really trying to get people to do that. All these figure people, Kyle, they're all trying to get people to order this thing. So I almost feel like it's like my duty to try to help out the figure
in the community. Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I don't know.
Last thing I'll say about figures, because otherwise we'll be here all night doing this, and we just ran over. But Crease 2008 mentions this. I'm assuming it was for me. It says you have to get the Dragon Zord and Megazord. I am in the market for both. I used to have the Megazord, all the pieces of the original Megazord. My same neighbor that had the Green Ranger had the Dragon Zord. So I had all of them, and he always had the Green Ranger stuff. So when we get together, we can combine the two to make the Mega Dragon Zord or whatever, because the dragon could clip onto the back of the OG figure, even though it came out like later. It was just mind blowing. But once again, they have to be. I want to buy them loose, so I'm not spending an arm and a leg, and they have to be in good condition, and that's where the issues lie: is finding these things loose but not totally beat up. So, but I am looking for both of those Crease. Like if you know people or Manib who collects, like if y'all know someone who has a loose Megazord set and a loose Dragon Zord and they're the legitimate vintage from like 1994 or whatever, that's like, hit me up. I want those badly. Trust me.
Nice. All right, man. We're over. I want to watch Hard Knocks, see what's going down with my Dallas Cowboys.
Yep.
And that should be live now, so I can't wait. And yeah, it was a good episode. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. If you haven't, please like this video, subscribe, share it out. I'll try to get to timestamps. It is kind of a pain. So if you want to listen to it without timestamps, I appreciate it, but I will get to it eventually. It usually takes me like an hour and a half for real. So it's not something I can just get done immediately. So there's always people like, man, where's the timestamps? Like, give me time. Like I have to work in the morning and all that other stuff. So, but anyways, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe. Skol Vikings.
Go Cowboys. Cowboy Nation all day.